Hey everyone, good morning. Okay, I would record my session on Teams, so you can go home and refer it, because in this course there will be lots of demo. So I will go through this series one by one, and then I will give you some context first, like what that service is, and then I will demonstrate that on console, and then we will go through the details in these slides. Okay? So you can always check these recordings. I think you received this AWS Academy access. So what it allows is it allows you to access AWS for free. Okay, and once you log into this, you will see these three options. And when you hit modules, and then you will see something like Learner Lab. And when you click on, like, that's like how we get access. So you click on that, and then you will see this page. When you access for the first time, you will see like accept and terms and conditions. You scroll all the way down and accept it. Once you do so, you will see this screen. And in this screen, you have to hit Start Lab. It will take longer time when you do this for the first time. And once you did once, then it would become much faster. And now notice here, like this is the most important button in here. Like this is the button that allows you to access AWS. So currently it's AWS hyperlink with underscore, and it's yellow, so which means it's starting. Once it turns green, then you can click on this, and then you will be redirected to AWS console. Okay, that's how you will access. Let's discuss. By the way, how was your winter break?
It was great.
It was great and long. Cool. Okay, let's just start with who am I? So when I was back in my country, I was full stack Java developer, like typical Java stack, Spring, Hibernate, and database was Oracle, and then also front-end JavaScript jQuery, still pretty typical. And then I came to MIU in 2017, and I was just like you. I know like how it's like to be a compressed student. Okay, I was in your shoe. So, and then once I finished my study, I went to Seattle, and where I found a great company that I had opportunities to grow, especially in the cloud. So I worked there, and in the US, the typical company runs global applications. Like you will talk about millions of users, whereas like the country I'm from, Mongolia, it's like population of only 3 million. And when you develop these applications, this is just hundreds of users. So what you need is like a couple of servers, right? That's it. But in the US, it's like different, something different. It's talk about millions, and then when you deploy, like you deploy all over the world. So that's where I work. And then I came back to MIU in May 2021. And I brought this cloud computing course from Seattle. So I will talk about AWS. So that's here. And again, I work with AWS for this free access. And there is the hardest AWS. By the way, AWS certificates are really like highly appreciated. Like if you have got associate level certificate, that's equivalent to like you are hired. If you got that certificate, then it's very good. And again, like if you notice, I was Java developer, and when I was looking for a job, like they required like it was like nice to have. But now that was in 2018, but in 2023, I think it's kind of required. It's like so. Then there is a certificate. After once you pass it, that associate certificate, you can go for the next step, professional. So I passed that last year. That is the hardest one. And even some at my last company, even this like high up people, they require like teams to have 1 or 2 people who has this professional certificate. Okay, this is like kind of okay. And then aside from teaching, so I started helping startup companies where they run machine learning applications. So basically what they do is translate sign language to text. So I'm helping that startup and then like basically looking over all the applications on AWS and on premise. So that's what I do aside from teaching. So my focus is serverless event-driven architecture. Yeah, so if you want to, and I also started liking this machine learning and AI. Like once I met these folks, because very close, like it's there. Like before that, I was thought like AI is something like in the future, but now technologies are out there, like it's super close. And some student history who took these classes, like this is one of the popular courses, and like every block, I receive a lot of emails about like student wants to take this course. Okay, so this is like quite popular, and you are fortunate to have like in my previous blog, like there are many students, and I cut like a lot of students. So some stories. I joined the MIU, and then as an instructor, I have to check CPT reports. I think you heard of that, right? When you are working, you have to write the report, and that's checked by your advisor. So I check like hundreds of students' CPT reports, and more than half they somehow work with AWS. Okay, so that's one thing, and then like that's like called it, and then he was glad that AWS is taught at MIU. And another student who took this class, and again in your technical interview, they sometimes like they ask cloud questions, like set of questions, and then like the interviewer asked a question about AWS, and he answered it like fully because he already took this class. And then interviewer said like you know AWS very well, and then moved on to the next set of questions, like for example, so it will help you a lot with that. And also like there's MST department, so MST student, he said like once you got certificate from AWS, and then you would get like salary increase or like one-time bonus. That's there. So, and then this is like survey from previous blog, and one student, I don't know who that student is, like wrote that he or she had no experience. Like if you have no experience, that's fine. And she had no experience, and now she feels like 0 to hero. Okay, so those are some real stories. Finally turned green. So let me show you. Once it turned green, hit start lab. Once it turned green, click on this, and here you go. So you have access. Okay, we got the access. Let's go back to syllabus. So cloud computing. So what it allows, why like everyone is using this, is like this principle: like, do less and achieve more. You know why? The reason is some of the works, like depending on which cloud model you are choosing, these cloud provider like Amazon employers, they are doing the work for you. Okay? Some of the like before cloud, like you are responsible for doing everything, like your company. But in this case, like some works, maybe most works are done by AWS. Okay, so this is here. So today we will talk about cloud computing and like different models. So I uploaded the slide on it's okay, so you can check that out. And also, if you check resources, you will see all the slides. Like these are outdated, but you can take a look at it and get some idea what will be covered tomorrow. right? So you can do that, but it's quite outdated. So this one, the new one, because like these modern technologies, they are updated every 6 months. So it's like I'll cover these core services, but details are frequently changed. So I need to like make those changes according to my style. That's why we have this different. You need to change this irregular. So cloud computing, and these numbers, these are story points. These are story points, like how heavy that class is. Like this class today, cloud computing, it's like average. So I would say like a 2.5 story point. 2 point means like it could be done in 2 hours. Right? It could be done. 3 means it's like kind of heavy, but kind of heavy. So tomorrow it's a lot. And then on this day, like on Wednesday next week, it's gonna be heavy. So it's this one is also gives you like some information there. If you have a question, post that on chat, and then I can read that out loud, and then maybe those PE students who are watching this video can know what you asked. So like my questions would make more sense. If you have questions, just drop it in here in this meeting chat. Okay, and again, like if it's too bright, you can go to Teams channel and see what I shared on Teams instead of this. And make sure that you mute yourself when you join, otherwise the awkward echoing. Okay, introduction, and tomorrow we will talk about the virtual machines, servers in the cloud, and then talk about IAM, Identity Access Management. So this is an important concept because in the cloud, you will be using more than one services to build your application. And now you have like more than one services, types of services. You want to connect them, but you have to manage its access and identity, right? That's the reason why we are covering tomorrow, like in the very first days. And then another thing is like you want to get access to AWS console, right? Like you join the company and you need access. That access also falls under this IAM. After that, we will talk about, so this is now like kind of heavy. And then on Wednesday, we will only focus on S3, simple storage service. It's an object, it's just like Google Drive or Dropbox that you use, like where you can literally store anything. So we will talk about this service, and it's just this block storage, and like I talked about its details. And there isn't much complex concepts in here, just some details. And on Thursday, we will talk about load balancer, because we know what servers are. And now in front of that, we put load balancers. So we will talk about load balancers on Thursday. And on Friday, we have those load balancer. Behind load balancer, we have a number of servers running. So we can, like AWS allows you to adjust that number automatically based on the traffic, right? So that's here. And then end of this week, we will just take this to digest what we learned in the first week. In the week next week, we will talk about relational database, because now you have servers, and servers is where your app is deployed, and your app probably needs some database. That's what RDS is, relational database service. And then seminar here, I'll just talk about, it's like open session. I will talk about technology that you might be interested in. Like every class is different topics. And so this is like not like official lesson, it's just something. Yeah. And then again on the Wednesday, it's important day. This is like SNS and SQS is integration services. That's what my focus area is. Like I mentioned that, right? Like my focus is serverless, event-driven architecture. And those are explained here. Like this is very important. Like that's how people are building these applications, like almost like this big hyperscaling applications. And I also want you to I want to ask you to notice these big applications. Notice this Facebook, Gmail, and how they work. And you might notice some things are done asynchronous. You click button, they show you success message, and then after a while, you receive, right? That's the pattern there. That's what event-driven and asynchronous is like. That's here. And then again, basically next week we'll learn about two these official lessons, and then just midterm exam. Right? Just 2 lessons and midterm exam. And I will give you some guide. This is this, and then it's your day to prepare for that, and then we will have exam. And after that, so here we had some servers, those things. So that's known as this. Yeah. So I'll talk about this soon. On Victory, we will talk about serverless technologies. We'll talk about Lambda, and DynamoDB is NoSQL database. We learned the relational database here, NoSQL database in here. And now we have our application on Lambda, which is logic and database. Now what we need to do is we want to make that application an API, so it's accessible. That's what API gateway is. Once you got these 3, you might want to secure that API, right? Once user sign in, you want to issue GWT token, and if that token is present, then you want to by using the token you would authorize. So you can call this API. And then lastly, I will talk about CloudFormation. This is how we build these resources in real life. This is like CI/CD automation tool. In real life, nothing is here. Throughout the class, we will just use this console to build these resources. In real life, you don't do this manually. You write template. You write some template about how that resource will look like, and then just run it, and then it's automatic. In real life, in production, nothing is done manually in production. So that's what CloudFormation is, and then some domain name service, because that would need in your project. In your project, you would build your own, and then you would have your project, and lastly, final exam. Any questions? Okay, good. So this services in blue, they complement one another. They complement one another. It's the same stack. In one stack, there are many technologies, and this is this you will find in the same stack. And services in green, they also are the same stack. They are used frequently. And the services in orange, SNS, SQS, and S3, and also this IAM, and those are used everywhere. But this is how I use these columns. Okay, check out this on Sakai. You can just read it yourself. I'm just skipping these parts. And this is something you're interested in. Midterm exam 40%, final exam 40%, final project 20%. And this exam, this is just exam will ask what's on the slide. So I highly encourage you to read the slides every day. Those who read the slide, they just receive full credits from the exam. And also what I asked, there are 3 things. Things on the slide, it's easy to prepare. And also you have to pay attention carefully in this class when you are sitting in class. And I will be asking the things that I talked verbally in here. Okay, make sure you pay full attention. It's something I talked in class. The 3rd thing is what you did in your assignment, right? So that's it. So these 3 things, that's I prepare, and that's here.
There is no mark on the assignment? There is no marks on the assignment?
There's no marks on that. I will check along with this exam. In your exam, I can check if you. So this is standard. Okay, this, like, read it yourself. There are like some main points. I am skipping it, but make sure you read this because this is something very important points that I gained this like throughout the 2 years. Okay, this is like main point. Okay, let's now skip this first. What do we have today? Cloud computing. I'll talk about cloud computing introduction. And then main topic is this, understand this different cloud service models, IaaS, performance service, and function service. And the best thing is, I don't just talk about this theory, I will show you this on console, okay, with some demonstration. And then you will see like what this is. Okay, cloud. Let's start this story. Like when I tell you something like what that is, eventually it will be forgotten, right? Because it's like some definition. But if I tell you like some story, then the story is like stay in mind. That's why I'm doing it. So first, like you develop application on your laptop, you can run it. It's fine, right? If you want to make it like real life production applications, then there are some issues. Like the first thing is application on your local, it's not available. Like users cannot access from the internet. So this is something that you have to resolve yourself, right? And like it's like I'm explaining this because this cloud it's built on top of this many years of IT know-how, and it's built on top of many technologies. Like if I directly talk about the technology on the top, you might get what that is if you don't know what the underlying technologies are, right? So that's why I'm like comparing this like step one by one. Okay, and the second thing is on your laptop, you have like some other applications running like this Word, PowerPoint, Paint, and they would use up some resources, and you would have maybe like some small resource on your laptop. That's another reason. And another thing is like this laptop, if I run it this all the time, it will get slower. So I have to like restart it at least to clean up some memories. Otherwise, it will. So those are the like some issues that I can think of right now. And the better approach to run your application is run it on the server, right? Run it on your server. So the benefits are now, again, like this same, like you can also make it. So it's reachable from the internet. It's like how a typical server look like. And this server is now dedicated to your application. Like there's no resources are not used for like Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, etc. And then it's running all the time. That's what these servers are designed for. You got some benefits, but still there are some issues. So it cannot like you buy one server, which is like expensive, thousands of dollars, you buy one. And maybe you want to scale, like you only have one, like you spend all your money to buy one and now you cannot scale it, right? That's one reason, like it's not that scalable. Another thing, like that server is, let's say, somewhere like in Bellhop. And then maybe there is like power outage across this city. And now the server is down. And then what happens is like you cannot access to your application, right? This is not highly available. And this is very important in business because in business, if there is an outage for 1 minute, then it will cost thousands of dollars. So you need to make sure that your app is running all the time. And like all this work, scalability, high availability, like everything you have to do yourself, like go to maybe order your server, plug it in, power it up, all yourself. And application code grows, so which like another thing, like you write application and like you add new features, you add code, and then it's like gets complex. And like when you write code, like when one day, like it sometimes like it becomes impossible to add new features, and also like there is a lot of bugs. I mean, the breaking this in here, the reason is like in the cloud, now trending architecture is less code. Like I'm building my backend without writing any code, literally. Like last 2 years, I'm not writing any code to bring up my backend API. Just think about this. When I was back in Mongolia, like using those traditional technology, I'm sure you did this in your MPP course, like you create models, right? Your database, your Java application, you create many layers, models, and then make it an API. And what you do is like typical code operation, right? You like there's one JSON, you store it, you update it, you read it, you delete it. Now think about it. Just take a moment to think about it. It's like pretty straightforward. Like you have payload, store it. You have something, update it, delete it. Like there isn't really much logic, right? But then you are writing a lot of code for achieving that naive operations. In the cloud, like so since there isn't much logic, like you can just with cloud you can achieve that without writing any code. I will show you that like, this class. Okay, just to give you some idea. So running app on the cloud, so it will resolve all these issues. Like your application is scalable, available, it's more secure, it's more performant. It takes advantage of this data centers all over the world. So there are like many advantages. That's like how we came here, like with the cloud. Like this is where we are at right now. So the golden era of IT, I would say. Okay, why cloud? So from developer perspective, you do less and achieve more. And so this is true because most work is done by the cloud provider. And the developers can only focus on this business code, the business code. And it's really fun to realize that like something we did, maybe something we did like previous work or maybe our bachelor's degree, something we did wrote a lot of code that like you would realize in this class, you don't need to write any code there. You can just use these services to achieve the same result. So yeah, I remember like building user module, like it takes a month, like months. And when if you want to introduce new like multi-factor authentication password policy, your code gets bigger, right? But with the cloud, you can just the service is already there, and then you can just use it like no amount of work. It's like similar to like you do your bread yourself like previously, and then now you can go to Walmart and buy one for yourself, right? It's like similar pattern. You don't have to do this. And again, writing code, there is a lot of things to do. You write code, you write unit test, you write integration test, and then you have different environments. You have to promote that div environment, test staging and production environment. A lot of work, right? Like this code related. Without and this less code, so basically using these cloud services, less code, what you can achieve is you can come up with a simple solution for complex problem. Traditional writing code it's a complex solution for complex problems. And it's not maintained. It's like there could be a lot of bugs and it will take time. Okay, that's it. That's it. I think you got the idea. So from business perspective, it helps businesses to save money. They would love it. And then also it gives business agility, like startups. Now you have your investors and you promised your investors that you would have your application V1 in 1 month. And then you just have to deliver that. Right? Because in business, like it's, I also worked on my side projects. And what I would say is like, it's better to sell first and then work on your project. Because like I have spent a lot of time like working on a project that I can't monetize. I just spent my time. I learned some things, but there's just something there. Okay. It's here. Okay, now we can, like, I can give you the definition, that hardcore definition here. Like now you got some idea. So cloud computing, from the official documentations, it's on-demand delivery of all types of resources as a web service. You can get basically everything as a service. If you need some computing resources to run your application, that's their database, that's their big data, AI, like everything is there in the cloud, in the AWS cloud. And cloud is the tool to build some evolvable applications. Okay, and the nature of life is to evolve. So evolve means like evolve is a term that we had the biggest tech meeting last month, and Amazon's CTO, he talked about a lot of about this evolvable applications, okay, and event-driven and asynchronous. So this is like, it's like brand new. And what evolvable means is it's like develop gradually from a simple to a more complex one. But that's how applications like. It comes simple, and then you have new features, and you make it like it evolves. You know. Okay, so and then it can write that, and this is also basic. I think cloud as a software to build your infrastructure and application components. So basically, instead of doing everything yourself, you can use like those softwares. You use softwares to build your own software. Okay, I think it's like completely like and then now you have to shift your mindset. Like previously, like everything is on you, and now like some things you don't need to worry about. Like when using S3, like concurrency, right? Sometimes you think of like when you do yourself, you think about concurrency, like this thread, like collision. When you use cloud, the service is already there, and it's managed, handled by the provider. Like you don't even need to think about that. But that's what this is like. You need to know, like just ready to use. And this is like all the services there. You can see it in the console. And there's okay, this is just like a Lego. So you got all your pieces to build something great. And I would say, like I checked out all the recordings, most main recordings from that tech meeting, AWS reInvent. So what I noticed is they just sophisticated services to build an application like this, typical services. And now they are working on like something bigger, such as simulation and quantum computer, something. They're like looking like now building application is like something small, and because like, yeah. So that idea. So let's move on. So AWS, Amazon Web Services. So let's talk about services. Like we talked about a lot of services here. Like we get this. So service is something you already did. So it's just essentially it's an API. API is something that you give some input, it processes, and it returns the result. There's something you did, right? You did something you did. It's something I mentioned that when you use cloud, the database itself is an API. That's how this low code, no code is possible. That your database, again, your database, there is a related database service, right? So this is already an API. So you can call that API to do CRUD operations. In traditional, we have database. We have to build our backend to make it an API so it's accessible. But in cloud, it's already an API. So, yeah. So that's here. And this is just a bunch of API services out there, like in AWS. And then there are 3 ways to access and use those services. The first one is AWS console. This console, but under the hood is calling the same services. Okay, and you can also use command line interface to make some calls. And this is great if you want to experiment something quickly. like how like you want to test one operation that you can do it with CLI. And the SDK is how you call those services from your application. If you want to store it, and so basically just give you some visual stuff. Just cut this. So we do have this. So we have a bunch of APIs here. It's AWS APIs. It's like web services. And when you, the first thing today, what we will do is we will work with AWS Console. And AWS Console is just think of this as a front-end application, just front-end application that's calling this Amazon Web Services, Amazon these APIs. So this API, like the same API, you can call from CLI. So for example, here you have S3. Okay, in S3, okay, let's say now it's just blank. There's nothing in here. But now, like when there is nothing in here, no result, you will see this welcome page. If I had some resources in here, I will see those resources in here, right? Okay, in this console. If I do this, okay, if I AWS S3, so the service name is in this case S3, right? AWS S3 and ls list. I would also see the same result. I will see those list of records. Like same result. That's what this guy is like. It's CLI. You're accessing to these APIs. And then there is another way. There are some SDK. And you can do some actions with your console. You can add some record to your database table. Similar, the same thing you can do with SDK from your application and CLI from your terminal. Okay. So cloud is not very different from traditional infrastructure. Like it's similar to traditional port. Okay. So let's say that we have this identity access management. It is similar to admins that manage access. Right. And then this we have server, and that's in the cloud, in the AWS cloud known as EC2. And we have some hard drive that's known as, there are many services here, S3, AFS, and DBS. We will cover. We do have a Redis database that we have here as a service, and we have this NoSQL database that we have as a service. It's not very different. Okay, so this, you can read it. Okay, I don't think there isn't much to amplify. And now I have talked for 40 minutes. Let me do some demo. It's time for them. Okay, we will have like this break every 20 or like about 30 minutes, and that support will cut this recording and stuff. Yes. Okay, let's start with servers. Do you want to start with server or let's start with servers. Server is EC2. Here you go. See virtual servers in the cloud. You can get those descriptions in the console. Here in this text bar, you will look for those servers. Like there are 200 plus services here. It categorizes it, and that. Okay, so we are now AWS EC2 console. It's like this is also what you will see in your account. Like this, I proxied this, so this is exactly what you will see. And we have created an EC2 instance, EC2 instance, server, virtual machine. They all refer to the same the same thing. Okay, so and just get familiar with these abbreviations. Okay, so in this slide, I have this list of abbreviations. But get familiar with that. Otherwise, like you might have no idea what I am talking about when I do it of EC2. So that's your important homework. Maybe like the last slide, print it out, stick it somewhere in your room. Okay, and then just launch instance. So here what we are doing is creating a web server in the cloud. So I can do it in 2 minutes. Okay, but here as I'm explaining this, it will take more time. But in traditional world, like you have to buy it, you have to wait it and plug it. Like there's a lot of things, right? In the cloud, it takes like 2 minutes to spend. Okay, so let's name. I can give it a name, maybe my first server. So I don't have what's wrong with my laptop at this time. So here, next step is you choose your operating system. So Windows, Ubuntu, Mac OS, it's up to you. But we developers, which OS do you prefer? Like when it comes to deploying your application, which OS do you prefer? Linux or
Linux.
Yes, Linux is the best. Like it's lightweight. You can spin up like quickly, like it's hundreds of megabytes. You can download that in 1 minute. Whereas if you have Windows Server, you'll talk about gigabytes. And to download this, like you have to wait 10 minutes or like. And then also the best thing about Linux is that you write one command and then you can install all the packages, like all the dependencies you need in your application. Right? So you can execute commands. And the best thing is like to automate this deployment. We use tools like Jenkins, and in Jenkins, what they do is they execute the command that you gave. Like if we can like, so for example, in here, we would install one package with one command. That command, if you give to that automation tool, that will like make that operation automatic. Okay, that's also an advantage of this Linux. Yeah, I'll go forward with Linux. Like in this class, throughout this class, we would only be using this Linux. Okay. Okay, operating system selection, I think it was clear. The second is like how big instance you want. So we are fine with this default 1 CPU, 1 GB memory. You can take a look at this and then maybe make it bigger, but like in this class, we are fine with this pre. This is something also we will not touch. Like there are lots of configurations when you there are many configurations when you're creating a resource. Just focus on the ones that I am highlighting. Okay. If I didn't highlight, then just keep it as default. Just don't touch it. Keeper. This is how you SSH into your login to your server and configure it. So we can generate our key pair or the username password for and we can do it. But this time we will use it, we will do differently, best practice, like more secure way. So I would say just something default, like this is something we don't need it. We have different technique to access it. Okay. So we would access it, but this is like what that is. So key pairs. You might need this, but for now, like you must select one. This one is required because we spin up a server and you would probably want to configure it, right? So this is required. I would select this is you can create new one, like it's all up to you. Like it doesn't matter. It's required, but it doesn't matter what you provide. Networking, I will talk about briefly tomorrow, but I will skip this. And here, one thing is implement configuration now firewall. Like who can access your server? So this is something important. So maybe you want SSH access, like so you can log into your server and log in. And I also want this HTTP traffic. So I want to make this server a web server. Okay, I will spin this up and make it an API, make it a web server so everyone can access to it. I'll give you one IP, then you can access it. Okay, so this is auto access. That's what this firewall or security groups are. This is important. Okay, the security groups are important. You must select this internet, this one. Otherwise, there is no way to access your server. So by default, no one can access to your server. This is your storage. How big storage you want? 8 GB. I am fine with that. I'm using this. You must select this expand this advanced details and select this lab instance profile. It's already there. It's already there. It's pre-configured. Okay, select this. We will be using this IAM profile, something called IAM profile. We will be using this to connect to our instance, not SSH, because this is important. And then in the lab instruction, I highlighted this main steps. But everything is highlighted here. Focus on it. And then this is like full documentation about it's like step by. If you scroll all the way down, you would get a step-by-step instruction. But you don't need that. You just need this step-by-step instruction, like these main parts here. Something I elaborated. Because the other one I noticed is like students like spend a lot of time preparing that. That main step is configured it, like take care of this, understand this, and then once you understand, you can do it easily by checking this. So that's important, and I think that's it. Any questions on this? Yes. Okay. So the question was, what would happen if we select this not free tier eligible? So the answer is it will charge, right? It will charge. Okay, very good question. If you are using AWS Academy, then it's not actually free. You have $100 credit. So if you select like something big, then this number will go up. Once it's $100, then you will lose access to this. Okay, but the good news is like average spend here is like $40. My previous class average spend was $40. So yeah, okay. Any other questions on this configuration? Okay, let's start this. So launch a server. Let it have 1 minute to launch. Right? Let it have 1 minute to launch. Let's see what we have in this slide. Okay, so right now what I am demonstrating is this IaaS model. Okay, these different models are like this cloud service models. This shows you like which parts on you, like which parts are managed by you, and which parts are managed by the cloud. That's what this model says. So non-cloud, you would manage everything. In IaaS model, infrastructure as a service, you would get this building where you can have your servers and networking hardware. It's all managed by AWS. This yellow ones managed by what is on you is like the always selection and preparing runtime for your application, and your applications are everything on you. We just did this one. The rest is platform as a service, function as a service. Sorry. Function as a service. In this case, notice here, you just write your code, then that's it. Period. Like you don't even have to do this server. Like servers is still a lot of work. As you notice, like there are some networking and security firewall, hard drive. There's still a lot of things. Right? If you use this function as a service model, then just write your code, it runs. You don't have to worry about it. That's what these different models like. This is the main concept of today, I understand. So I think it's now running. Okay, select your server. We might need this. Okay. This is so you get this IP, public IP here, but currently if we hit this, it will not work because it's not a web server, and so we might need this. I copied that. Okay, select the server and hit connect. And then the session manager is configured by default, and just hit connect. Okay. It's much easier than installing software like PuTTY and then like providing all those information keep here. Like with AWS now, this connecting to your instance is just one click. Like without this, so this here under the hood is using another service called AWS Systems Manager. Okay, now we are using EC2 server. EC2 is a different service, and the service we are using for assessing is Systems Manager. To connect to these two, what did I tell you? Like, what do you need? Like, you need something called IAM, right? That's why we are covering this. Like, if you have two different servers, you need to connect this. The way to connect to different services, IAM. That's why that IAM selection in the previous step was required. Like, that was the important one. Okay. Like when you do your lab, if you don't select that IAM profile, then you cannot access to it because it's different service. Anyway, so it's here. So now we can do whatever we want. This is our server and we have control. So what do we do? I would do sudo s, like I am using this power user, so I can execute any command here. I can, so for example, start a web server. If I don't use this root user, then maybe I don't have permission to start this service. So this is just a service now. What we will do is let's install a web server package, right? Yum install, maybe there is HTTP, and I will pass parameter y because it like asks if you want to install it. Yeah, and I was talking about like CI/CD checks a bit, like in how the CI/CD is done is like you write commands something like this. You write this command like somewhere, and then this command is executed automatically. This is the power of this Linux operating systems. You execute command that you can execute yourself or using tools like Jenkins. Okay, so here, installing the package, install this, and this is all smooth. Makes sense? Following everyone. So we have a server, we have this plain server that we want to make a web server. So we need web package that we just install. Now I think only one step is pending. Start it, right? So now we just installed it and now just start it, kick it out. So so this is in the serious HTTP start. This command is already provided, and in the I would not expect you to memorize everything in the exam. Like if you need to write something like this in the exam, I will just give it to you in the class. Like in this class, you don't need to memorize anything. You just need to understand this. Yeah, like you don't need to understand this syntax of these commands, but you have to understand like these steps. I'm making my server a website. I'm installing package, starting this. In order to start this service, I need super user that I did in the first step. Just understanding that one is required, right? That's all. Otherwise, like you cannot do your assignment. Like maybe you are just blindly following the recording. That's not good, right? If you have some questions, then like come to me and I will help you with that. If there is something not clear, then so yeah, it started. Now it should work. This is public IP, right? Public IP of our server. So this, like when you select this, it shows that instance data and that public IP before. So it's all that same. So hit this, and you can test this out. Like if you open up your browser, put this number maybe, and it would work. Again, like this is can be done in 2 minutes. Do less and achieve more. Because this is the default page that comes with this Apache package. Now let's customize this. Right? Let's customize this and something like our own. That you will see here, you may want to add content to this directory. So copy this And if you go to this folder, cd to this folder, and this folder is already there when you install the package. And now, if I list here, there's nothing in here. If we do index.html in here, then it would render this page instead of the default page. So index.html, this is, no. We can do something like touch.index.html. Okay, just if you're not familiar with this, like get familiar with some basic bash scripts. Like it would need this as a software. Okay, so I'm creating this. It's a command that creates ls. It's there. Now we want to edit this. How do you edit? Good. Good. So you can use anything, right? So I would use nano here. Index.html. Okay, let's write some HTML. Hello from cloud computing, January 2023. And okay. And when I learned this nano, the hardest part was exit from this console and save it. It's tricky for beginners, but once you do this a couple of times, then you will get hang of it. So to exit, here it's a Control-X. So I have to Control-X. And it's asking, do you want to save this file? So I would say yes. And then it's as a confirming that it's writing to this index.html. Like notice this, like it's tricky for beginners. It's tricky for beginners. So I know how it's like because I went through it. Okay, we customized that. I gave you the URL, right? IP, you can use it. And this is here. Any questions? Okay, delete you can check. That's what yes is. Okay, let's take 10-minute break and I will demonstrate function as a service.
So how do you reach this?
Okay, Control-X. You know it, right? Can you help him?
The label, the label, the mic, you
Sure.
turn it off.
Oh.
Hold the button.
Mm.
No, you have to hold it for a few seconds. And the light will go.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
If green
What
is there,
happens when it turns yellow?
it's in mute. Mute. Yeah, it's in green. It's working on.
Mute is fine, also fine, right?
Mute is fine.
You just asked me to mute it, right?
Yeah, but just to save the battery.
Ah, sure.
Yeah. I'll remind you to turn it on because
Sure.
we always listen to the audio.
Yep. Yep.
You need to move it.
Sorry to get beat when you're trying to
Wait, it's just the sorry. Sorry, something. Yeah, this is the changes. Oh, okay. Yours. Yeah,
How many do you have access for the AWS Academy?
Emma.
So whatever we do is still automatically, right? When we log in again, we will be sending what we did or.
You cannot access to that console, so you'll lose all your work. So that's why you need to do your project in your personal account, and that will be talk about soon. And not now. Yeah. So, but that's the idea. Like,
Can you add me on Teams and Sakai? Which I was very last student.
in your mind.
I'm Christian, the last student in the pilot course. I'm not in Teams and Sakai.
Oh, sure. I will do it now. Message me on Teams.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can find your. It's you and you know it, right? Okay. My name. Type U and U. So that will show up. NUBO is showing up.
Yeah.
Send me your email address.
From Australia.
Unball. Unball. Okay, you should have access.
Thank you.
Yeah, I use this for. I think they can.
You- That you cannot access your EC2 instance using Systems Manager. So what will happen is when you hit connect, this button is disabled. And then another thing is when you can add that IAM profile later, but that takes like 20 or hours to make propagate the change. So what I recommend is like if you forget to associate that with IAM profile, just create new one. Creating new one takes like 2 minutes. But then if you wait that change to be done, then you have to wait like hours. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a 10 seconds. These friends shouldn't be more than 30. Because they have taken place by not. If it's not one of them, they will not keep it.
It's not only association. Just for the video. I'm going No, not really. Let's go. Whenever you're basically anything, it's you. Yeah, just
Wait. Yeah.
Yeah, this is especially for this. I think that's important. We have almost like. Meetings with papers.
Oh, you know what?
You have. Can make it better.
Oh,
That's different here.
It's okay.
Can you call out the students, because we have some concerns to cover it on.
you can be fine. Oh, we have no.
Okay, so it's been 10 minutes, so there are some things I want to cover. Okay.
Yes.
You ready for the next demo?
Yes,
There's no even fill.
It's easier, we just add.
Once you launch this server, you grab this IP and you put this in here. When you hit enter, maybe it will not respond because by default, this browser's defaults to HTTPS, right? But then if you remember, if you take a look at our EC2 instance security group, and this is like who can access to it. Okay, this is port 443, right? HTTPS is port 443, and that is not allowed here. Even we didn't even set that up. So then basically, if it's not returning, then just remove this, remove S, and then it would hit 80 port. That's like common question. Let's see. For sure, but I will not allow HTTPS if there is nothing running on that part, right? And this HTTPS, when you do it in the cloud, like you do not do that on the server, like, or even you don't even write or configure a lot of things to achieve that. Instead, what you do is like use service out there. You click one button, and now your application is HTTPS. Okay.
Just because certificate for free.
Yes, Amazon provides certificate for free. Yes. Again, like there are people like used to this traditional stuff, and then what they do is they just launch an EC2 instance and then configure everything there, like the certificate launching. That's not what cloud is. Like cloud means like you are taking advantage of those services. Okay, so do not do that. Like do not directly do everything. I do not even recommend this EC2. Like I recommend serviceless architecture. Okay, this is like yeah. Okay. Let's go to the other one. I will demonstrate function as a service. Okay, so that is known as Lambda. And run code without thinking about servers, right? So you can bookmark this. So I would like this is the service that we would use the most. So you can mark here. So here we go. We do have some defaults, some functions, because we are using this special account, but in your normal account, there would be nothing. Just don't mind this for functions, just so you know. Okay, let's write a function. It's function as a service, so it's function. So basically what we will do is we will write a function that returns an array of strings. And then we would also generate URL for our function. And then we can just basically use it as a REST API. URL, when you hit URL, it would return an array. Yeah, and so how do I name it? Okay, I'll just call it my first function, but basically what it is like some simple API. Okay, you have these options: Node.js and Python, etc. Node.js is the most popular one. It runs fast. Python is also popular, but the most popular one is Node.js. So we will just do this with Node.js. And here you have to do some things. Like these are the required things, the required steps. You have to you see something raw, you always have to use this lab role. Like this is the same role we select in EC2 instance. Okay. Like throughout the class, we would be using we would be selecting this role. Just for you, basically this is the role that we selected in our EC2, like the same resource. Like we would need this. The reason is, let's say you said console.log hello. And how do you see your log? Right, this is not a service showstopper. So you have service called CloudWatch. That is where you see your logs in the AWS cloud, monitor resources. So basically, when you do a console.log, you will see that in this service. So now there are two services. You probably need an IAM. So Labrol, what was your question? I interrupted.
I want to ask, what's the role? Understand what's that one?
That's something we will cover tomorrow. So for now, role is something that allows communication between these two different services. So we have CloudWatch and we have this. And similarly, we had EC2 service and Systems Manager service. Like when you connect these two different spheres. Okay. And next thing, it's a brand new feature, as I mentioned. Devs make changes like every day. So this is a brand new feature that I think it's just 4 months old, I guess. Like the class last year, like they didn't have this opportunity. Like there is no way to run it directly. But this is basically enable function URL. When you do that, it will generate URL so you can access directly. So enable function URL, and there's no auth. We just wanna see the array, what it returns. And then you might want to enable this chorus. If you are calling that from web application, just enable it. Okay? Just enable it. I'll talk about this maybe, or you can do your own research, or maybe you had experienced this before. Okay, for now, just do this again, summary, give it a name, select this Labrol, that's required, and let's enable this function URL, and also enable this course. Let me double check if I have one. Choose Labrol, IAM, enable URL, enable course. That's what you need. Create function, and this is just the function, just a function. So here, this is your JavaScript code. Okay, so it's okay. Maybe. Okay, let's do this. That's a bit better. So let's do one thing. Console.log hello lambda, and let's see how it looks like in CloudWatch, like how we can see logs. And then the other thing is it's gonna be web API to return 200, and instead of this string, we want an array, right? String 1, maybe student name 1, string. So this is just okay. We are done implementing our lambda. We did to log it out and then return, and just hit deploy. That's it. That's it. URL is generated here. Grab this URL, paste it here. We do have our API. Just under 1 minute, you can achieve this result.
So every lambda will have a different URL.
What?
Every lambda will have a different
Yes.
URL.
Yes.
So Professor, like we can write one lambda in one language and another in another language.
Yes, it's up to you. And we did one more thing. We logged out. How you see log is when you go to CloudWatch, you will see this log groups. In this log groups, you will see logs. So basically what happens is, so we are running in this distributed environment. Our Lambda is running like somewhere in the cloud. Maybe if let's say that there are concurrent requests let's say 100 concurrent requests, 100 instances of Lambda, and you wanna see all the logs in one place. That's what this is. Like AWS groups those logs in one place. That's how it's why they come up with log group. And here you will see my first function. And then a log stream is created, or you can just click on this highlighted button, search log group. And this is how you will see your log, this hello from. Okay, so basically, we just wrote the code, just one function, it runs. We didn't even set up any server. Like we didn't do anything. We just wrote our code, it works. Okay, you can cut. Do you want to see more demo? Like we can complete this demo. Maybe let's call this API in our front-end application, like let's say React, and let's get that React app deployed on AWS. How does that sound? Interesting. Okay, I'll show you how to deploy static website. In our case, we're gonna utilize this. Let's just start. So I prepared some code. That code snippet, probably you will find this in the instruction. And like if you are, I would be using React. If you are not familiar with React, then it's not that hard to set up this. Just install Node.js and follow just these steps. If you're familiar with that, that's cool. I prepared that code and here. Is it the one? Okay, it looks like it's done. Okay, this code is there in the instruction. You can copy and paste. Let me go over that. So this is like code is hitting our hitting the API that we just created, pulling an array, pulling that array, and then just rendering it in here. So basically, you might. So now in React, if you want to call your backend, you need the library called Axios. Okay, you npm instead of Axios. Once you do that, then you can instantiate that library and then make a get call. And here you have to replace this URL. So in our case, the URL is copy and paste it in here. Okay, and okay, it's making call. So just a few steps. Install Axios, and then make a get call, and it will return that array. It will return the array, and that array we are rendering inside ordered list. What was?
So let's say we have 100 different functions. How can we keep track of all the different orders?
That's exactly what API Gateway does. It's not. This is not how you run real-life API. It's just a feature, maybe for this demo. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Okay, code is there. Like again, you got the idea, right? This is here. What I need to do is I need to do npm run build. So let me build this. I can run it if I'll run it. Maybe I can. Okay, I have node modules. It's building. Maybe another PowerShell. npm install, and I'll show you how it looks. Oh no, not npm. It's npm start. Okay, you can start that. It's creating the build. So basically, we have written the application. We are building it for deployment, and it will create some Python kit that we will deploy in the cloud. So after this class, after this demo, you will learn deploying any static application on AWS. And this is taking some time. Okay, this app is starting. This is how the app is looks like. I'm interested in the build part. Okay, cool. So it built our application. So it picks up this code and it's there. So basically, reveal this in Pilot Explorer. Okay, we have our component file. Now we just want to deploy this. We just want to now we have this. How the code looks like is cool. Do you see it? It's even working. Cloud computing course, string 1, 2, 3, and let me show you one more thing. Maybe student 4. Deploy it. Once you made it, you have to deploy it. Okay, deploy it. If I refresh, it runs. Okay, so it's there. It's there. And we have the build file here, and we can now just simply deploy it. Okay, let's move on to the next part, deployment. The easiest way to deploy static website is using S3 Object Storage Service. It will be covered on Wednesday, but it's a service just like Google Drive. You can dump anything here, but when you dump your files, you create that inside something called bucket. Like you wanna store your files, like you need a place to store it. The place to store your file is called bucket. And normally what people do is like if you're hosting website, like it's like your domain name.com, like bucket name is equivalent to your domain name. And again, like it has to be unique. Okay? I'm so sure that someone used this name. That bucket is other. So I would just want to make it unique. So maybe I can add CS156 January 23. Now I'm sure that this name is unique. Like your bucket name has to be unique. That's it, period. Nothing more. Just give the name and then hit create. Let me do. We want to host the website, right? Like we want to allow all public access. So just deselect this because it's not recommended, but in our use case, that's what we want to achieve. We want to make it public because we're hosting website. So uncheck this, and then just create a bucket. Okay, I acknowledge this. Okay, this is the place where we will dump that build file. So I'll hit upload. So I'm on that bucket. And go to build. Okay, go to build folder. Some students like drop this build inside. That will not work. So inside this, go to build and then these files, drop it in here. And upload this. That's basically it. And so we made our, now we enabled public access on this bucket. Next thing we have to do is, so for example, there's an index to this theme, right? The bucket itself is public, but this object is not public. You have to make it public. So you can click on actions, and then you would say something like make it public. But then we have like way too many files, right? You cannot manually make them one. That's why we need to write a policy. Okay, we write a policy. Okay, let me know if you want, like if you're lost. If you're not following, let me know. The bucket is public, and we want to make all the objects public at once. So that's what this public policy is. We just want one policy. Click on edit, and here I do have some snippet in the instruction that you can refer. Here. grab this. Okay. Okay, this is the React code. Paste it in here. You don't need this ID. You need this version. You don't need this. Okay. The main part here is this in statement part. In the statement, you define like what, like you define policies. Like you can define a number of policies. The first policy we define is get object. It is like the policy we want, like the policy that makes all objects public. And this is something I think it would be covered tomorrow, but I want you to understand this. Like I can explain it to you. Okay. So first thing, we are allowing something, right? We are allowing it. What we are allowing is get object. Allowing get object. And then, okay, are you following this? This what is allowing something? Allowing get object. Okay. Now the thing is like, where are those objects? We have to tell that information, right? That information is like our bucket itself, right? This bucket. So we have to define like, that's what this resource tag is. So it's your bucket name. And then you have wildcard and all. Okay. What this means is you can, so can is here. You can get all, wildcard is all, right? All objects in this bucket. So we just wrote this policy. And then now here the last thing we define is like, who can get all the objects in that bucket then? Who can get? I would say everyone in this world. That's what this policy is. Save changes. Cool, it's saved. And you should see this label in here, publicly accessible, because bucket is bucket and we broke that everything. Okay, that's one step, and we have to do a few more steps, and then we are good. Okay, a few more steps. Go to properties. Like this, static website hosting is one of the features that this S3 service provides. So that feature is, as its name suggests, it's static website hosting. So it's disabled for now. So we want to enable it so it will generate URL that we can use. So we want to enable this feature, a static website. And then it asks you some information like what is the default page. So we do have index.html. You remember in our build file we have index. That's it. That's pretty much all. Save it. And here you go. So this is the link to your front-end application. Like this is a typical approach. I do use this. I use S3 to host this static websites. And how I do it, now you have just seen it. Welcome to the course, and here. If I add one more in our backend, if we add student 5, we deploy it. Refresh our website. And then I think this one, there are 5.
So it's okay to use S3 to host static page.
Yeah, only static. What static means is, I think you might be wondering what static is. Static means you cannot read, like you cannot have environment variables, I would say. Environment variable, you know, it's a variable that is changed dynamically at runtime, right? So when you have an environment variable, it changes at runtime, like it's dynamic. But in S3, there is no such way to configure environment variable. Like everything, you hard code this. And hard code is like not an idea, right? Like in real life, some applications. For example, yeah, you can code. And then also, yeah, that's it. So, and everything you see here is it's rendered on the client side. So when you are hosting this, there is some things to keep in your mind. So first thing is you cannot store any secrets, any password, any API key, anything in here, because everything is rendered on the client side. Okay, so basically static is what that is. Like it's hard-coded file. You can think of this, it's like hard-coded Unix system. You can think of that way. And if your front-end application needs to read something environment variable, if your front-end application needs to store some secrets, then you cannot use this. Like you have to come up with your different solution, different service.
Other services.
On this EC2 you can use it. For EC2 you can use it. Okay, anyway. So that's it. That's all the demo. Okay, I demonstrated, so go to here. Do we have the syllabus? Okay, 1 second. 1 second. In this course, like I cannot cover everything, but I'm covering the most core services in the AWS cloud. If you know these services, you can tell anyone that you know cloud, because cloud is like this main service. Like these main services are used most of the time. And the services in blue, they all falls under ES, EC2 server. The service in red, they all fall under bus. So basically in the first step of the course, we will see services in this model, and second of the half of the course, we will see services in this model. And this was introduction, and I showed you like how they are done. Okay, I can take a question.
When we are using the data,
Mhm.
how can we keep track of the teams that version?
Oh, that's good question. So this is built-in future. Okay, this is something we will cover in we do have Lambda lesson, right, on the third week. First, that I will talk about this. But as he asked it, I would answer it. So here you can publish a new version. Like you make change and publish a new version. And then maybe version 1, 2, 3. Like it's increment automatically one by one. And that's how you manage. And now you have like different versions. Okay, that was it. That's like the main things that I wanted to show you on this lesson 1. That's pretty much. And your task is your task is to do what I did in class, what I demonstrated. Just practice this, and that's it. You have all the instructions. And okay, let's see what we have here. So I found some. Okay. Some important things here. So for example, here, yeah, some things that I just ask you to read it. Like if there is something that's not clear, for example, built-in metrics, like I asked you to read it yourself, but then you don't understand it. In that case, you can obviously reach out to me. Built-in metrics is one of the features that cloud provides, I would say. Like again, cloud is like bunch of APIs. You're sending request and you are returning response. Sending request. Like since it's API, you can monitor this, right? You can capture the requests, and AWS do that and generate some nice metrics for you. Like there are some default metrics that is helpful. So for example, here you will see invocation number. Like you didn't do anything, but you receive it. Like how, like at which time, like how many times it was invoked. And then duration. Like these metrics are very essential because Lambda charges based on this duration and invocation and how much. And then this error rate and all the services they do have this metrics. And obviously you can generate your own metric. That's what I tried to elaborate on this. Okay, this is something I will cover on Friday, so you don't have to guess. And agility, I just talk a bit about that. Your reliability, performance. Okay, so there is one thing, like you want your application more performant. Okay, more, let's say security is important, right? Security is important. You want to make your application more secure. So in the cloud, what you do is you have your application without my idea, like without changing your application, without writing any code to your application, you can increase its security by stacking security technologies on top of your application, on top of your technology stack. Okay, like you can just, there is a security service that you can just use it. It's stack on top of your application. So no code change, but you have this. And also there is another thing that I would cover is, I'll cover tomorrow, but then like when you run your, for example, when you run this server, you have this different layer. Like for each layer, you can write firewall policies, who can access. Like your application is inside many layers. For each layer, you can set security rules. Not only that, you can add up this additional security services. That's here. And performant, obviously, because they have data servers all over the world, so you can take advantage of this global infrastructure and deliver your. And that's here. I covered this. Yes. Okay, I'll just read it. So ES means rent a server from the cloud, and you choose operating system, memory, hard drive, and CPU. And you will receive key pair to log into your server, or alternatively, you can use that other service. Once server is provisioned, you can do whatever you want with the server, such as hosting websites. So you can literally do whatever you want. And you have a lot of, still with this ES infrastructure, you have a lot of work to do on your site. So personally, I recommend you to utilize like other cloud models, like more specific, like serverless model. Serverless, you don't have much to do. And then this is to falls under ES. Yes. Well, there's something platform as a service. Okay. Yeah, I'll get to there after reading definition for this. We have seen this. Platform as a service, like it's without thinking about servers. And when we do this, when we utilize this functions as a service, that's known as serverless architecture. And services like without thinking about service. So then Lambda falls under this. There is some, it's the most popular, again, like another popular model out there. So basically what you do is when you utilize this is like you don't know the cloud, but you want to run your application in the cloud. You want to migrate from on-premise to cloud, but you don't know cloud. Now what to do? So there is a service for that. And then that service like falls under this platform as a service. And what it does is it would provision those resources for you. You just upload your code and underlying resources are provisioned automatically. But under the hood again, they are this PaaS PaaS model uses EC2 and those ES series. Okay. Anyway, I'll show you that in here. This is something you just to give you some idea. Let's go to Elastic Beanstalk. That's the what service is called. Now, when you just go to this welcome page, when you go to this creation wizard, you can learn a lot. You can learn, you can get a lot. So basically, it's like my one is a service application. Okay, my Phonos app. Just give it a name and choose your platform, like language for your application. Right. So the goal is you have your code and you want to run it. Maybe if you have PHP or Java, then you can select it. Anyway, so you have this, and now you simply upload your code. Upload your code, choose file, and like select your jar file or like zip file, like whatever you have. And now I don't have any application there, and I just use sample that. And then, okay, this is what platform as a service model is.
It's for the dynamic
Everything.
backing. Or we still don't know what is static.
It's dynamic. Yeah,
Then
it's completely. Yeah, it's like I'm talking about like three completely different things. Like yes, like this. Yeah, this are different. So
with this service to upload backend server or backend application.
what?
What is the service to upload a backend application? Like if
Best service?
If you have existing backend application and large.
Sure, yeah, that's probably this one, Elastic Beanstalk. Or you can just lift and shift to another EC2 instance. Like this EBA, Elastic Beanstalk or EC2. Those are the services that you can use for migrating existing applications. Lambda is not that. Lambda is like cloud native application. Like it's not possible. Like you have to rewrite your code. Okay, this PaaS model works. The reason is under the hood it utilizes that EC2 machine. So under the hood so it provisions the resource for you, and those resource provisioned is EC2 virtual machines. So yeah, I get some error because it's a special account, so you would get this. The reason is you didn't select that special role, that lab role stuff. Here I am. This is something going refresh. It is fine. Any app is fine. And JavaScript, Node.js, and sample app. Configure more options. And you have to change the securities. Now it shows up, lab instance. Okay, that's like we got that weird error because it's a special account. Okay, believe me, guys. Like you select sample project, you upload your code, and it runs. It runs on EC2. There's like some weird error going on, so it's fixable. So anyway, I think you got the idea. Yep.
I told you generates an output, but
There is an output.
what about code I write? Generates something.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, I'll show you here. So in this model, right, this PaaS model you're addressing. So basically, when you upload code, it provisions your resource, right? Provision for you. What it provisions is load balancer. Okay, load balancer, and then EC2 virtual machines. EC2, and then I'm sure your application is database, right? Database. You need database. That's what RDS is. So this is what it provisions. It provisions these resources. And now you are calling your application through this load balancer, right? You hit this load balancer, and your EC2 instance, it would process your request. It would process your request, maybe pull data from RDS, and then you would receive your response in here from the load balancer. The load balancer is nothing special. It's just your AI. So basically, let's think of this way, like this is your URL for your load balancer. And when you hit that URL, it processes and returns the data that you are talking about. Did I answer your question or still no?
So imagine I have the code that reads whatever in the database and generates an Excel file,
Excel file?
for example. Where can I find this Excel file? Or do I need to specify the location of the statement?
Okay, now I think I got it. So in this EC2, right, this is EC2. So this guy is processing, right? Processing your files, generating the Excel file. And then this EC2 already has hard drive, right? EBS. Did you notice that like we had this 8 GB hard drive when we were creating certain instance? So then you would find that in here. Like it's inside this EC2 machine. Because EC2 has CPU, RAM, and hardware. You will find that. Yes. No. Okay. Okay. This works like this naive way. If you are really in a that's like with traditional mindset, but with cloud mindset, what you would want is you would probably want to store such files, something different like S3. The advantage is now this file is shared across many servers. And then like this is very important when it comes to scaling, because how scaling done is it's automatic. You know it, right? It's automatic. Like it's like AWS with pick one of the EC2 instances and terminate this. Terminate this if there is much transaction. In that case, like if you start that file inside this, then you might lose that file. Then like you need this centralized storage for better scaling.
All services load balanced by default.
In this, which yes, in this
Like
It
S3, is it load balanced by default?
oh yeah, everything is just managed by AWS. You don't have to worry about anything. This concurrency, like everything is managed by. They just give you this. They guarantee that it. Anyways, I've been getting that weird error with Elastic Beanstalk. So you can go here, like please check out this Learning Lab in here. Here you will see like what regions you can access, what services you can do, what you cannot. And also it gives you instructions to run something, so to do something. So for example, service usage and other restrictions. When you click on this, all the services, and the one we tried to do was Elastic Beanstalk, right? And then here I was getting that red errors. And if you face the same issue, check out these restrictions related to your special data account. And then it says that you have to do this and you have to go this, edit this, select abroad, go this, select abroad. If you follow this, then it will go through. Okay, software as a service. This is the application that you built. We built our application using this one or like these different models. Okay, anyway, this is your application, so that is accessible from the internet. In the AWS, and then this is like infrastructure. You can get as a service, platform as a service, Apache as a service. There's something, the other model that's very popular is this container as a service. Nowadays, almost everything is containerized, right? So that I don't have time to cover, but that is popular. So that you can also. So and data as a service, desktop as a service. So basically, is there a like this lab laptop? We do have this, but basically we can get this same laptop as a service. Like there's a service that issues these laptops, work laptops for you. Pretty much everything. Okay, as a service. And all these cloud providers provide these services, and like they do the same thing. If you need function as a service, then like Azure, they do have this. Concepts are very similar, just different terms. The once you know one of the clouds, then the other ones are not a big deal. The ideas are the same. Just here, this is a containerized that to cover. And then in AWS, there are two ways. There are services known as this. Okay, I highlighted this. This is used everywhere, first thing. The reason is it's ease of deployment and it's much faster. And other biggest reason I highlighted that I prepared this slide for this model is it's platform agnostic. Some people worry about with locked in with one cloud provider, right? And this, if you have containers, you can run that everywhere. And then another best thing about this guy is you can run it with server or you can run it without server. So if you have this Docker image, Docker application on the AWS, you can run it with the server or without server. And without server is recommended always. Like at my last job as Sterling, we had these containerized applications, and we used to run that containerized application on EC2, but then later on we migrated that to this serverless one. Yeah, managing servers is very hard. Like one time I was on support and there was intermittent outage. Like some requests were failing. Most of the requests are successful, but some of them were failing. And the reason was like we are running this on a fleet of EC2 instances, and one of the instance, like there is some misconfiguration, and like that was the risk. But again, because now when you have a server, it's on you to manage it, and there is server misconfiguration. I converted this as containers as service, and the most popular 3 months, almost all applications in this world, they fall under this one of these 3 models. The platform as a service is essentially this, ES. So the app runs on virtual machines in terms of ES. So this one is app runs in containers, and the other one is in the cloud. So what you manage in ES is a lot of things. Containers as a service, you manage your image, like container image. Here, you only manage your business card. But these two are, I think, the ones that you are interested in. Yes, it takes a couple of minutes to scale because it launched a new instance, right? Whereas containers, the Docker containers, they scale this in minutes, right? In minutes, much lighter. Whereas functions as a service, it is scaled this in a second, under 1 second, it can scale. And in terms of cost, ES charges a lot. Every minute it charges, and then you also have to pay for that block store, like hard drive, all these things. No, necessarily, it depends on if you're running on EC2 or serverless. Serverless one. And serverless is the least expensive. I think I misspelled this. It's not correct, right? Expensive. Anyway, yeah, these are the reasons that function as a service, it can scale instantly. It's much cheaper, and you don't have much things to manage. Okay, that's it. We are right on time. So let's take a break. Let's have lunch, and then in the afternoon I will talk about this common services. Let's give you some context.
What time do you come?
It's always at 1:30.